Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are releasing, well, Puff has been released, but I'm going to give you a firsthand look at decorating with Puff, as well as several other special effect materials. That way we can really transform your artwork and you know which materials to recommend to your customers and know how to make them work well together. So I am Kelly Walters, and thank you so much for joining me today. I do have a poll that you should be able to access now, and it's just simply knowing so I can know who is actually watching. And what I mean by that is I love to know where our viewers are in terms of being a pro or a newbie to heat decorating, and that really helps allow me to kind of target conversations to specific points, or really making sure I'm going over basics. That way we can all be on the same page. Now, Shauna is on the other side for us today. So if you have any questions, she'll be going, keeping track of all of those, and then we'll shout out at me as we go through this. That way we can answer them in a timely manner. I kind of like to answer questions as we're going through the process or as they come to mind. That way they can kind of all tie and flow in together. So we will get started with a quick, like 5-slide PowerPoint, and you should have the ability to download this after. If not, Shauna, let me know if that's something I need to send to you to make sure it goes out. It is kind of a helpful guide when it comes to choosing special effects and really just understanding why that special effect material will make sense for your job. Okay, so I am checking out new to heat printing. So we've got a large portion on here that's actually a pro. So thanks for taking time out of your day to further on your education. And several of you that are actually 1 to 2 years in your business, and only a couple, well, a handful, a good chunk that are brand new. So I'm going to keep that poll going. If you're nervous to respond, it's okay. This is a safe place. Nobody is judging you. So if you have any questions, now's the perfect time to get those out so we can get them answered and you keep moving forward in your business. All right, so we're going to launch this presentation. All right, so today's mission is to add life to your artwork. Simply by choosing a different transfer, you can completely transform your design. Now, as we are going through the materials, I am going to show you a variety of mixed media as well. And what I mean by that is we're going to be decorating with 3 materials, some that have a little more detail, some that are simply just lining up like a cookie cutter, and then some are just going to be scattered in a variety. So as you are trying to determine whether or not, okay, this is way too complicated for me, or this makes no sense in my business, or I absolutely love it, just know that these are examples and these are ideas. So what you should be able to do is take what I am showing, what I am going over, and then adapt it into your business for how it could potentially make sense. All right, so I've come up with core 4, and that's going to be core 4 questions to ask yourself in the material selection process, as well as core 4 categories of materials that are offered. I found this to be the easiest way to narrow down what exactly I am wanting my art to do, as well as picking from the 20 different CAD cut options that we have in special effects, or that can give you special effects. When you have that many to choose from, sometimes you can have analysis paralysis. You have no idea where to start, or it's just too overwhelming thinking about, well, I can't add all of these products into my business. That's not the point. The point isn't to have a lineup of 12 different materials to select from. The point is to understand what material you should use when. So in the material selection process, here's just 4 points. What's the goal of the item being decorated? What are you trying to do with your art? Are you wanting to make your art dimensional? Are you trying to make certain pieces feel lifelike? Are you really just kind of wanting to move further along or faster along in production? And it's really just kind of a one-of-a-kind design. Those will help narrow down when it comes to choosing the materials based on effects. So if you know you want your art to be more lifelike, well, then you might choose something that has more texture. You might choose something that has a certain sheen at, say, the teeth of a bulldog versus just choosing something to be matte. Next, which is extremely important, is how does the application process affect the design? And what I mean by that is if you're choosing 5 different materials to work with, specialty materials, or even 5 different colors, that's probably not going to be the most productive when it comes to mass production. You might cap that off at 12 pieces. Okay. The other point to consider is not all materials can be layered, and some materials, if you go back and you hit it a second time, actually changes the initial look once you've peeled the carrier. 4, which is so important, is trial and error. And this goes for even just decorating with one color, is trial and error. Because if you have a really sensitive garment and you are wanting to put a higher temp, maybe thicker material on that garment, are you prepared to know how it's going to feel? And is your customer prepared, right? You're the pro, you're the expert, so do the trial and error. And you guys, I will tell you, I absolutely love the error, okay? And the reason why I say that is because when I have an error, I learn something. When I am so close, but I still have an error, I'm learning more and more. All right, so let's go over the 4 categories, because this is really going to help navigate through all of the special effect. Now, this isn't necessarily the 4 categories that we have posted online. Textured, I believe, is one. Dimensional is one. Special effect is another. But at the end of the day, there's more characteristics to these materials than just special effect. So textured, it's going to have texture to your hand. So silicone dye block, it's going to be a rubbery feel, slightly raised. Glitter flake, we all know that feels like sandpaper, right? But it's going to give you a wow factor and really sparkle. Could also be something considered like sand, right? If you use a soft, or if you use like a Vegas gold or a light gold, maybe that's sand at the beach. And then we also have soft flock, which is one of my favorites to work with and really kind of feels like a crushed velvet. Now, there's going to be a couple of other materials that would fall along in textured as well. But again, we're going to keep it simple as best as possible. And we're going to focus on textured as strictly being textured, okay? Next is dimensional. This is going to be anything that is going to help give you a raised feel. So puff, which is brand new, you're going to get a beautiful little puff. But what that's actually doing is kind of engulfing the material below it to help it to get that raise, where something like soft foam is actually going to be a true dimensional and keep that material underneath flat. Silicone dye block and soft foam are very similar, but you're going to have a rubbery feel versus a soft, kind of suede like feel with soft foam. And then of course soft flock, which you'll notice was also in textured. But if you layer soft flock on soft flock, you're going to keep increasing that height, which makes it dimensional. Now, sheen is one that I feel like needs to be a category, because if you mix a gloss with a matte, you create character. In a way, you create like flat dimension because your eye is picking up those 2 different sheens. So we've got metallic that definitely can give you a gloss look, but when you hit it again, it turns into like a brushed metal. We've got fashion film electric, which is definitely going to be one of our glossier materials compared to something like ultra weed. So even though they are both great t-shirt materials, one is going to be very matte and one is definitely going to have a higher gloss look to it. And then I also put Premium Plus on there because Premium Plus and Ultra Weed are very, very similar. But maybe you are more of a fan in terms of weeding with Ultra Weed or vice versa with Premium Plus. So just know that Premium Plus mixed with metallic, it's definitely going to be a contrast in shanes. Now, last but not least in this category is going to be shift. And the best way to think of this is that material is going to shift anytime the light hits it. Chroma Bling can take on surrounding colors, and it can also take on the colors that it's actually on in terms of garment. So you might see blue and pink as you take it out or unroll it, but once it goes on that garment, it might actually pick up more purple or green. Reflective glitter. It is what it says. It is a reflective glitter. So in the day, in the light, you're going to have that beautiful glitter look. But at night, when the light hits it, you're going to have that reflectivity. UV shift. Unfortunately, I am not showing this one today. And you guys, I am in my office and there is no window in here. So I wouldn't be able to show you how UV actually starts off white, a tiny hue of whatever color it is, but white, and then transform to either yellow or violet, pink. I don't think pink is the technical color, but you get the point. And then the next one is high vis color reflect, which is actually a color reflective material. So reflective glitter is reflective, but you have that glitter look like glitter flake, and high vis reflective is like 3M, but color. Okay. Shauna, did I see a hand go up?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions.
Sure, go for it.
So the first, just from Sandra, she said she tried Puff this week and it popped off the tea in a wrinkled mess. I'm sure you're going to give some tips on that upcoming, so stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Edna is asking if the differences in these are written in a side-by-side comparison. I'm not quite sure what that question means. Maybe she could clarify for us. And then we have a question here from Carr. But fashion film was going away. Does that include electric?
As far as I'm aware, electric is not moving because it really kind of provides a special effect material that metallic doesn't. Shauna, do you have a backup?
I believe it's staying too.
Okay. Yeah, so I honestly haven't decorated with fashion film in at least probably 2 years, but electric is still in my material grab just because I know it also has a larger variety of colors than metallic. So to the document showing the breakdown is no, we don't, because when I got asked to do this webinar, I really wanted to think of a way to make it as simple as possible. And that's where my mind started going to, let's break these down into categories and really do the comparison. Now, I will say, online in the description of the materials, it will tell you what kind of finish. So if you go to Ultra Weed, I believe it's a soft matte finish. That might be the verbiage that you might see on the description. So you can find those details, but in terms of a one pager, we don't have it, but I promise you, I put it in my pocket for further notes because special effect material isn't an every project type of thing. But if you can make it a specialty of yours, then you can really increase your profits and kind of create your own path. Great questions.
We have a couple of folks asking about samples, where to get a sample and so forth. So you want to talk about where they can get samples?
Yeah, so actually online, Stahls.com, you can go in and request samples. If you have a person that you work with at Stahls, then you can also reach out to them and request samples. I am not 100% sure if Puff has been released in the sample form yet, just because it has.
Yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
I was like, Not yet. Okay,
Not yet.
so it was released a week ago, and typically it takes just a minute to kind of get those samples created. That way we can distribute them. So if you are working with somebody, make a note to request Puff and let them know. Or, in a couple of weeks, follow up with somebody at Stahls through customer service. Or I guarantee you, if you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, you can always reach out and DM if something is available. There is I think a request sample within each product. So let's say you are really curious about soft foam. You've never used it. You can go in and request a sample, and that should be within that product page specifically for that product.
So Tammy said she received Puff samples, so I'm going to double check. And Danielle, thanks. Danielle is one of our colleagues. She posted the link to the samples.
Woohoo! Awesome job, Danielle. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to keep going on. Okay, so like I was saying, within this particular sheet right here, this is something that you can also download, and I know it's in PowerPoint form, but turn it into a PDF and print it off. That way you can kind of have a guide on these materials falling into these categories. In the website or on the website, there is a little bit of breakdown, like you're wanting dimensional, you're wanting texture. The special effect, I think, actually falls into like glitter, reflective, chroma bling. But you guys, I like easy, and I like things that I can keep in front of me that just basically keep it as simple as possible. So this is just something that you can print off and keep if this is the path that you're wanting to go down. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about before we keep going on is how does the application process affect the design? So this was step 3 before test and trial, or test and error. And the reason why this is so important is because if you are doing any type of layering, you have to understand what can be layered. It is also, all of that information is in the description of the products online. And the more you work with those products, then the more you will become aware of what will work and what won't. So just because something can layer also doesn't mean it's going to work 100% of the time. So will that change the product, or will the product change after the second press? CAD Cut Puff, brand spanking new, cannot be hit twice. And what I mean by that is, let's say you want to do first application Puff. The minute that press opens, which you'll get to see, it automatically starts to take on this puff like transformation. If you were to go back and hit that again with the heating element, you're going to flatten the puff. So if it is your second press and you see something is lifting from another product, you can't go back, because if you hit that puff again, it's going to mess it up. Same thing for metallic. Metallic, once you peel, has this beautiful gloss-like satin gloss, I guess you could call it, type of look with the metallic. Peel that carrier and you hit it again, it takes it into this brushed metal, which is super, super cool. And some people prefer one or the other. But if you've done 10 pieces and you have that gloss look and you hit that metallic again on the 11th, you're going back through and tapping the others for just 2 to 3 seconds to create that uniformity. How does the process affect your production? If you're pressing with 5 different colors, or customers wanting, I don't know what, yes, production time is going to be awful, and it's going to take way more in terms of building those garments than they typically would. You're either going to be okay with this because you've charged accordingly, or you're going to say, hey, my limit is 3. Or maybe the quantity is a certain limit. If you are in the Etsy world or the custom world, the ones world, where you are okay with creating something unique and beautiful and different and one of a kind, then listen, you decorate as many materials as you want, but just make sure your price to your customer warrants that, okay? Because that's 5 different materials to weed. That's 5 different materials to make sure that they are aligning correctly on the press. I'll give you an example here in just a bit, but these are all things that, I'm here to set you guys up for success, not tell you it's going to work out great. And then you go through, oh my gosh, what's happening? Okay, these samples I'm also getting ready to show you, I've all done personally, and I can tell you where the pro and the con was of doing it. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's the PowerPoint, right? So super easy. And now let's just get into really going over the product. So puff first, because my goodness, was that a hot product at Long Beach, and rightfully so, because it's cuttable. I cut mine on a GS24 and it cut and weeded beautifully. There is a tiny bit of tack to it. However, if anything popped off, I was not able to go and put that dot of the I back. So that's something to consider. When I say it weeded beautifully, I didn't need a weeding tool unless there was a cavity. I could just peel it and it just came off. There's 18 colors. It applies at 280 degrees. Now, as you are looking at instructions, I'm going to be applying slightly different than what the instructions say, and that's because I have probably been pressing 14, 15 different garments with puff over the last week, not considered at the trade show. So I have found if you pre-press for 10 seconds versus 3 or 4, that really helps remove moisture, making it better for the puff. 280, so we've got the pre-press. It says medium to firm pressure on the description guide for applications. I would stay with firm. If you are on a Hotronix, stay with that 70 or a 7. So I will be at a 7 with my auto clam. And then I'm actually going to press for about 12 seconds versus the 8 to 10. Now, I will also tell you the personality of this product is going to adjust. So there's been a couple of products where the puff was different in a couple of different parts, but depending on the garment is actually the texture that the puff takes on. And what I mean by that is we've got a 100% cotton, okay, district scoop neck shirt. Now I'm going to try to get a little bit closer, but I'll tell you my light will shift, but you can kind of see the shadow in that lightning bolt already kind of pulling that material to the puff. Now I'm showing you inside the garment because this is what I'm talking about on how it pulls that garment in, kind of creating that puff. So you can see the shadow at the upper part of the heart, that yin yang right here also has the shadow. So let's try that again. The thinner the garment, the bigger the puff I have found. So that's inside the garment. And no, I have not attempted to decorate inside the garment yet, but I can tell you it is on my list. Okay, so let's see if we can show the height without my light. Oh, there it already goes. It's already dimming. Okay, so this is also extremely smooth, but when this was pressed on a Gildan dry blend crew neck, there was definitely more texture that came through in that puff, and it's because it's going to mimic whatever the type of knit is underneath. So this is a really, really soft, smooth cotton, where if you had a thicker knit or it's a little bit more dense, you might see some of that texture and how it's knitted come through that puff. You cannot layer on top of puff. Like I said, that's going to flatten it. And it is best to stay with bolder prints or letters. So if we were to take this to about a 2-inch, this hole is probably going to fill in, and then you wouldn't really tell what it is. It would be like a smiley face with just an eye. Okay, so let's decorate this. This is light blue. So this is the design that says ride with the wave. This is what we're decorating with. And this is a Comfort Colors. This is the back. So just threading my garment. Let me see if I'm completely in front of the camera. And I am. All right, I'm going to get it threaded, and then I will do my best to move out of the way for this thing. Now, with the pre-press, this also gives us the ability to test the pressure, which I said I know we want to be at a firm pressure. So this is 4. I'm going to hit it again, and it is telling me that I'm at a 7. Now it switched over to my 12 because that was my second setting. Now we're set back to 12. Now the cool thing is that you really don't have to peel the carrier on this. It's going to kind of just peel on its own. And what I'm doing right now is trying to find the center as best as possible in my design. And I don't know if you guys have seen the garments that are popping up for me right now, especially on Pinterest. It is an all over puff, extremely large print. You know, it's not something that's small. I have seen the small, like left chest designs, or, you know, maybe it's a heart symbol kind of thing. But I am seeing big and bold on garments with puff. All right, so I can't get you like super close, otherwise it's going to feel like we're in the Blair Witch Project. But as this pops up, I'm hoping you can kind of see that carrier just start to lift. So I don't know if you can see it. A little shadowy. But that's what it looks like on this garment. Okay, now when I said it's got a personality, I have pressed this same shirt 4 or 5 times, okay? And where it catches my eye is something that's right here. And it's not like it's completely puffed. I don't know, it's the shape of the letter because it's kind of doing it at the W. I knew my settings were correct. So my biggest advice on using this product is just like metallic, just like foil. It's not going to be 100% the exact same puff, the exact same texture every single time. And I think just setting that up in expectations, if you are fulfilling an order for somebody else, that's known. If you're a brand and you're like, listen, I need this product for my next t-shirt launch, great. You know, people don't necessarily think of it like that. It's when a business is coming to you and ordering, and it's a particular person. A lot of times they're looking for straight consistency, but I would tell you as a consumer, I would buy this, and I'm a picky Polly, guys. I will overlook, center, like it drives me crazy, okay? But I would be okay with that. Now, if you noticed, oh, there's a sneaky on the front, and this is actually Fashion Film Electric. And what I did was cut a design 17, I think I went 17 inches in width, maybe 15. And then when I got to the pocket, I cut it, took that other piece, put it to the other side, and then trimmed where I needed to be. So not only are we adding in a little bit more detail in the front by adding these waves, we've kind of done a custom, unique look. I'm pretty certain you can't get that with screen printing, or it would be a huge pain. And then we've also incorporated the whole ride the wave to the front. You could even put something else here if you wanted to continue to brand. Now let me show you this color. It's kind of a frosty silver look. Also kind of a great color for brides. We all know wedding season is about to transform. But because the Fashion Film Electric, I call it like this pearl metallic color. That's the effect that I feel like electric gives. It is also going to shift in the light without being reflective. Shauna, you got any questions?
I do have a couple for you. So first off, I want to clarify that puff is available in samples currently. We have
Awesome.
it in ready to cut and ready to heat apply.
Cool. So if you guys don't know what ready to cut is, that is like getting a sample that is a small sheet. I think it's like a 8 by 10 or 8 by 12 sheet where you can cut it on your own. And then if you don't want to go through that, then you can order the ready to apply, which is a sample that you get ready to apply.
Okay, D is asking if the heating instructions for puff change when you do different colors. White seems to always crinkle of the finished texture for me.
TBD. No, I honestly, I have been trying to be consistent because whenever we determine settings, our recipes for our materials, they are tested on a variety of products. And then they all go through that wash cycle. When it's consistent, that's when that recipe is released, and that's what that material goes with. What I've just been noticing is that, like I said, I just want to know why certain materials work with different textiles. So my recommendation would be, if you're working with 100% poly, test it. And it could even be just something small. You just want to make sure that it's going to puff and do what you need to, and you like that texture. I have only decorated with the white on one crew neck Gildan, and that one specifically gave me a texture. So I can't honestly answer it. Now, I will say this light blue is pretty similar to the other one that I got to work. And I don't know if you guys can see the details. It does look kind of blurry, but these lines are actually following along the lines of the garment. And in this district, I almost don't see any, and it's because this is so tightly knitted. It also might be a specific type of cotton. So yeah, and the other thing is it's 280 for 8 to 10 seconds. I'm doing it at 12 because that's where I have found the most consistency personally. So try it at 8, try it at 10. Maybe poly you only need 8 seconds, where a denser material you need that 10 to 12.
All right, Sherry is asking how long the puff keeps its puff when washed.
So it is a more sensitive material, and it was wash tested for 50 washes. So other materials, we got them at 50, where this one is 25. I think I just said 50, but it's 25 on puff, where our stock testing is at a 50 mark. So less. But again, I would not think of this as a work shirt, right? And even as the person purchasing it, if they're wearing it once a week, then they are addicted to that shirt. But even at twice a month and washing it, then that's still an entire year of puff. And I don't know what the puff looks like after it's not puffed. So it just may not have that crazy effect, but I'm wondering if it would still kind of look puff, but not as thick.
Nick is asking if you can order puff pre-cut, arranged, and ready to press so through custom services. I know it is not available through custom service.
Yep, not available yet. And anytime we launch a new product, I would say it can take 2 to 3 months before it goes into services. For those of you that are not used to purchasing in services, or you've never purchased, that's where you would upload your own artwork. We cut, weed, and send to you ready to be applied, essentially in something like this, without having to do any of the work ahead. And with that, there are always artwork stipulations. So I know we do a ton of testing to keep it efficient on our end. That way we can produce those orders quickly.
Carr asked if we recommend layering underneath puff.
So I am going to be layering one. It cannot be layered on top. So I would just kind of do your own wash testing to see if there's certain materials. The one I'm layering under is Ultra Weed. It's extremely thin. Oh, you know what? I lied. I have a gap. So there you go. I have done some testing with it layering, and it worked. It was fine. I've also done another piece where I just didn't do any type of gap or knockout, and it adjusted the way my puff puffed. So right now it cannot be layered on top, but I know we're still going through a little bit more testing whether or not, like, can we do foam, Ultra Weed, and then puff on top.
And then Kelvin, this will be the last question we take. What about humidity, room temperature affecting the peel?
I honestly do not know that. I will tell you that the room I am in, I'm either freezing or I'm frying. And right now, it did just fine. On this garment, it was a slower puff. And that could be one of those things where I had the pressure on a firm and maybe it truly needed to be at a medium. I'm just rolling deep with that 7 though. And anything I have pressed, I have never noticed the carrier not delaminating from the transfer. It delaminates great. But the biggest thing is that making sure that pressure and that time are really matched up so the puff is consistent.
Okay. That's it. We'll get to the rest of the questions. It's
cool. Okay, so now we're going to deep dive more into special effects and mixing media. And the reason why I wanted to pair this with mixed media is because special effects are great on their own. Sure, maybe somebody needs a reflective for somebody out in the field. Maybe somebody is wanting glitter because they want a mom shirt or, fan gear. Those are all great to use by themselves, but where special effect material really blossoms and stands out is when you can mix it. And within those 4 categories that we went over, each little category can complement each other. So you could take a dimensional with a certain type of sheen. You can take a texture with a light and really just start to mesh those together. Not only does this make the design really kind of pop and come to life more, but it's going to warrant a higher cost for a couple of reasons. The material alone is going to be more expensive, but the perceived value of your design should really intensify because we are adding character simply by changing our material, okay? Now, there's one, I'm just making sure that we are going to cookie cutter it, okay? Our first piece that we are, everyone say a quick little, oh no, hold on. My puff was stuck to my carrier, so let me try to save this before I cry in the corner.
Hey, Kelly, while you're doing that, someone asked if they should wash the garment first. We want to make sure that we tell them not to wash the garment first, and then they couldn't sell it as a new garment also. So
there you go.
Thanks, Patty, for pulling that question up. I skimmed over that one.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I feel like I've never, ever expected anybody to pre-wash a garment. And if you are having to pre-wash a garment before you decorate on it, I would say that's a red flag with the garment or a red flag with the material that you're decorating. You are a decorator. So your job is to get those garments, get those designs done, and ship them out to your customer. The reason why we do the wash testing, hold on, I got to go silent so I can line this up. The reason why we do wash testing is so we can make sure our washability factor is correctly communicated. Right? From there, that's when we know that the customer should be able to wash, dry, whatever their garment and feel safe. So I also, in particular on my detergent, and I do not use fabric softener, so I think that's just a whole other level of unnecessary tasks. You don't need to do that. Okay, so we are going to do a tonal look, and we've got a black hoodie from Independent Trading Co. It does come with these two different laces, which I think is pretty cool. That way you could either change it out, decorate on a lace, and we've also got our pocket. Let me change my plaid first. All right, so I'm going to go to an 11 by 15. And the reason why I changed out my platen is because I try not to use pillows if I don't have to. If you can't change out your platen, that's perfectly fine. I have used a pillow to decorate with puff. When we pre-press after we have either inserted a pillow or changed out a platen, it's extremely important to know that my 7 with what I was on a 16 by 20 is going to be closer to like a 5 on a smaller platen, simply because of the surface pressure. So, like, that's intense. Adjust it some more. Now, when I show you this garment, it's going to look like it is scorched. It is not. I know that this garment changes with the heat. So once it's cooled down, that box that you will see will actually go away. Sometimes with Bella Canvas and certain heather colors, I noticed this as well. This one specifically, it's going to look like it, but I decorated it 3 times when I was at Long Beach, so I know we are good to go. Okay, the first layer is Ultra Weed. The reason why I'm using this is because this is extremely thin material. It's a t-shirt material. It's excellent for layering, and I love it as a base. I also wanted a matte look. So if I wanted something with more of a gloss, then we could potentially go to Fashion Film Electric or look at some of our other materials that are available in that t-shirt category. I've also knocked out my words. That way when I go to line up my puff and my foam, it's going to be centered. It's going to be easy. It's my stencil. Because we've got 3 layers, the first 2 are going to be tacked down. I'm probably only going to tack this guy down for like 2 seconds because it can be applied at a very low temperature, hot peel. Okay. Now, because Ultra Weed is applied at a lower temperature, I know the longer I keep it on there, I could potentially have some shrinkage with that material. I love decorating with this in multiple layers also because it's a hot peel. I know you guys aren't close up, but I'll show it to you step by step. So step 1, it's tonal. You can keep it on there just like this, and in certain light, it's going to hit. You're going to be able to read it, and it's going to be more of a conversation piece. But I'm really wanting to add depth and character to this design. The second one I'm going to mess with is soft foam. This is a personal favorite. And the reason why I love working with it is because I get dimension. It has excellent movement on just about any garment, from a t-shirt to a thick sweatshirt. It can be layered, which means you can do foam on foam. And it has just a really soft feel to it. So for this, let's get my light in here. I am going to line up on the outside. If you are doing anything like this, then I also recommend good light, as you guys can see that I am holding on. All right, so what this does, because we have the knockout of those letters, I can do that quick and I don't have to worry about if my word is going to be off. The only way that would be off is if I set it up incorrectly when I first put the first Ultra Weed on. Again, we're going to tack it down. I'm actually going to adjust to a lighter pressure. Foam does apply with a light pressure, okay? And we're going to be putting puff on, and it's going to be a firm pressure. So I typically hate to put a firm pressure over foam, but at the end of the day, the focus point of this garment is going to be puff. So if this flattens a little bit, I'm okay, because I really want that puff to just jump off of the garment. Now, I am also going to peel our foam pretty slowly, because it is dimensional. We only tacked it down, and I don't want to stretch anything. Puff. So this is going to go in and go for the full time, which is going to ensure that we've also fully cooked our Ultra Weed and our soft foam. Get my light back. I will say that foam is also a little bit more of a frosted carrier. So more light, the better. And guys, because of my shadows, this might be a tidbit off, but you'll at least get the idea of it. Okay, so I'm a little low. I'm at a 2, so that's going to be closer to a 5. So I'm going to hope that this still puffs the way that I need to. And it did. It's already lifted the carrier. But like I was saying, consistency with foam is key, and that's where I feel like as the decorator, just try to keep it as consistent as possible. All right, so now this is the outcome that we've got. So we've got a couple of different dimensions, but the main focal point here is going to be the green popping out of the black. And as you can see where it's lined up with the bottom pocket, it is slightly tilted. But now let's come in and show you. So this is what we're working with. 3 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds, and 12. That's what it took in terms of application time. And something like this, you can absolutely do in a larger scale, okay? But again, we've got foam and we've got puff. So just really make sure that you are accounting for what these products are, okay? I will also say foam has a 50 washability factor, where that puff has the 25. But what do you guys think? Do you like it? I haven't checked chats at all. Let me take a drink. You got any questions, Shauna?
We do. 2 questions. Stephanie is asking if she can layer anything else on the foam or just foam on foam.
Yes, you can do just about anything. I say just about because I've noticed, like, you can do metallic on foam. We're going to do it. But the more you hit metallic on that foam just starts to really absorb that heat. And then I feel like it kind of makes the metallic bubble. So yes, you can, it works. But again, that goes into the trial error pocket of how many times can I hit this product before it gets too hot. But guys, that's why I love foam. I can't help it. I feel like in a lot of the videos I do for YouTube, I'm like, oh, I'm decorating with foam and something else. But it's a core standalone product, and it's a great mixed product.
And then Michael's asking your thoughts regarding using puff on bleached garments.
Oh, haven't tested it. I cannot comment because I truly do not know what that bleach and how sensitive those fibers from the bleach would then react to that adhesive. So listen, I am all about trial and error. A lot of the things that we discover that we can do are simply because somebody said, hey, have we tried X, Y, and Z? And then it goes into the testing. So I would 100% try it on your own, because you may bleach different than I do. And that's where that inconsistency on longevity of both the garment and the product might come into play.
And then last question, does foam need a Teflon sheet?
A cover sheet. Yeah, I didn't use a cover sheet, but yeah, the cover sheet's going to help protect the garment, the material, and the heating element. So I know, shame, very bad for not showing one, but I will in the next couple of two. But the Teflon or craft paper, they're going to give you a couple of different finishes on that. Okay, so moving on, we've got this kid that I decorated with. And this is an under layer. So the navy is ultra weed. So be great by itself, super simple, but I added white flock and, kind of did a fun line design just to add a little bit of character. So with this, I kind of feel like it gives, it's not going to show it, is it? You kind of can't see that vintage look that I wanted to show. Maybe at this back S, but in person, it kind of looks like puff. It's not as big as puff, but that kind of texture that it gets, it's a little raised. You know what? This might be a great option for those that are looking for longevity or a better washability on terms of 25 versus 50. Flock is 50. Still about the same time to press, but you're just not going to get that wow factor that you would from puff. And absolutely, I would not have put these lines in with puff because then they would have just kind of closed in together. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this design and we are going to add a couple of elements to this. Okay, so remember, navy is ultra weed on the bottom, white is soft flock. So now we're going to decorate that same garment and we are going to decorate with foam on the bottom. So this is navy soft foam. And you can see that there is some dimension in that. We are going to put soft flock yet on top. So now we're going to continue to raise the design. And then we're going to do another tiny little outline of soft flock again. So soft foam can be layered on. Soft flock can be layered on. So if those of you that are catching on, we're going to do some dimensional raised, definitely raised on this whole webinar. And I know we're getting close to Shauna at the time, or questions keep coming in, then feel free to go ahead and just go for it. Okay, so first layer, Hawkins. Again, we're only going to tack it down for about 4 seconds. Now, I will say that I have noticed that some foam likes to peel warm, hot, and cold. So I believe it is a warm peel, but as you go through and you are working with different colors, apparently I can't center and talk at the same time, just kind of do a sneaky peel. If you feel like it's lifting, stop, hit it again for a couple of seconds, and then peel warm. Let me get my cover sheet. So
2 questions for you. How many layers of flock can you do on top of one another?
Ooh, the most I've done is 3. But I haven't done it anymore. It's just because my design was stopping at 3. When it comes to mixing media, I really kind of like to max out at 3, just because you get into the production time, and then obviously messing with more and more shrinkage in your design. So again, easy, simple, one color. But we just added, trying to see if I can see it. It's pulling up the back, a little bit of dimension. So we're going to go through with that flock. Now this is layer on top of layer. So we are going to continuously build the height of that transfer versus going on to the garment. Now my foam shifted a little bit and it's now larger, which doesn't quite make any sense. So I'm going to cheat and scrunch my shirt a little bit together. Now with flock for about 20 seconds, I'm frying.
Jenny wants to know if soft foam can be sublimated.
Yes, but the washability isn't there. Technically, foam can be sublimated, but it does not hold on to its color. Flock would be your option.
Jessica wants to know if you're doing a heat transfer design with multiple colors, what's the standard method for registration other than eyeballing it?
Unless you do like knockouts of your letters, that's going to be your best. So like, oh, I don't have the other piece to that one. So like in this one that we're going to be doing is just a simple letter, right? And then my piece is going to lay over just on top of it. I have done, or I have attempted designs where, okay, I'm adding on second layer. You guys have already seen this one done, so I'm not going to show you the flock, but I have done designs where I was just going to try and, I guess, wing it in a sense because there was no other way to line it up. But I think it really all comes down to your artwork. Can you create a piece that you can easily match up, or you just do a random design? Okay, so my flock is getting so hot that it is peeling. And I snapped my design. So let's see if we can get this guy fixed.
So Mitchell replied to Jessica that they cut their first design as usual. And then on the second layer, they combine the two, weed everything beside the desired second layer. And then they have the cut marks left over. And then Patty recommended cutting a weeding box to align the two sheets. So a couple of different options there, various techniques.
So I think that's a great example. The way I've tried aligning took so much time from me in the first step that I just knew like I was never going to really attempt that again, because getting it aligned up with carrier on carrier and then taking those pieces and trying to do a one hit, I always had a little piece of the carrier in the wrong spot. So again, that's user error, right? That's me. So definitely take what you know, the friends in this group are saying and give it a shot. Okay, so here is flock on flock. Now, when I was weeding this piece, I got a little too excited and snapped this little guy. So this is what I was trying to fix and adjust. So it is slightly off, but this is just by adding one other tiny color of flock. Doesn't have to be flock, but I liked the idea of continuing to grow the height of that. So a little bit more of an athletic look. You can't really see it right here, but when you get up close, you can see the other kind of soft gold color. Okay, so before we do our last design, since I know we are a minute from being over, this is using soft flock just on a pullover. It is a blend. So it is a poly rayon, and there might even be a little bit of cotton in this, but I do know that there's rayon in this garment. As you can see, it's got a ton of movement. So we did soft flock right here and just adding a little bit of texture, but we have random placement all over the back. Now, the reason why we went with this is because I wanted the ability to just create, okay? So from a production standpoint, you print a whole bunch of paws in different colors, or maybe this is football. You get the point, right? It can be whatever it needs to be. And then we are just kind of creating one-of-a-kind looks. But we've got ultra weed for the black. We've got metallic for the red. Okay, and this is not the brush. This is, I peeled the carrier. So we have that beautiful kind of like satin look. But you guys, this is glitter reflective. So this actually serves a purpose besides looking all sparkly and fun. If the person wearing this is out at night and the light hits them, those silver paws will reflect. So if you are going in with the mindset of, okay, I want to start incorporating special effect material, use those effects to also your advantage to sell the garment. This serves a purpose, right, with that reflectivity. Now you can kind of see that middle paw right here. That's the reflection, and I'm in light on light. So it's definitely going to have a pop if you take a picture of this with your camera in person. So if you are working with different types of media, especially on the effects side, think about it. So how can this serve a purpose? What do I need it to do? Who is it going towards? Maybe this is a cross country team and it's not game day. It says cross country. That way they're out running or they want to layer, then they're still in some type of fan wear, but then they have that reflectivity.
We did have a couple of questions about whether puff works on hats, foam trucker caps, and structured caps.
So I have done foam on a hat. I do not have those samples to show you. Stay with a 5 or a 7 panel hat. It looks great on a foam trucker. I did do it on a 6 panel going down the seam, and unfortunately the foam didn't have the ability to react. So it kind of puffed around and indented on that seam. Now, if you were to do it on the side, I'm sure it would. It also took on the texture of that hat. So it had a different kind of puff effect simply because the texture was so thick on that cap.
And then Neil asked on the last design that you did, the soft gold, was that vinyl or was that flock? On the
it's flock, and it actually kind of looks like a dandelion color. I don't know if it's called butter. What is that color? I know I've had it. But it's like a dandelion yellow. It wasn't lemon. It wasn't banana. It was more of a soft yellow. But that was flock. I just want to make sure sometimes when we hear the word like gold, that there is actually no metallic in it, especially since I can't give you a really good image of that. Okay, this is the last garment we're decorating is this LAT kind of football style tee. Now, I love this garment, and the letter idea you will see with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different materials in just a minute, but I'm going to show you the simplified version of this because this is something you could do for game day. This is something that you could do for certain types of businesses. So here we've got our soft foam in white, our standard in, and then we are going to take our fashion film electric and kind of our stained glass or our stencil. Yes, I did weed all of that, but the wow factor this gives is very, very cool. And in this copper color, we're going to have a metallic effect, and it's also going to have that glass. Sorry, I'm eating my hair. That gloss look. So that gloss is going to contrast with that white matte M, and that's even more dimension and character that we're going to get. So same thing again, guys. We are going to just tack this down. And remember, if you guys have questions, keep popping those in the comments. That way When we are done, we can get those answered, and then class can be released.
Lenore's asked if she could add 3 puff designs to one shirt.
So I am going to essentially say yes, but they all have to be puffed at the same time, and or applied at the same time. And I would also make sure that you don't have any carrier on top of the other, because that's just another layer that puff has to go through. But, you know, kind of like that paw that we did, if you wanted those to be several puff paws, I don't see why not, because they're all going to puff individually, and that carrier isn't something that's like, oh my gosh, it's hot, peel it immediately. It kind of automatically releases. Now, the one thing I will say is that Fashion Film Electric does apply at a higher temperature. So one thing you need to make sure is to really, goodness gracious, what is happening with my shapes are shifting. It's just something you need to be cautious about. You don't want to be working with a 260 and then fly up to 320. That's something that's going to be considered in your lineup of your materials. So in question number 3, the application process, that's something to consider. If a carrier is layering over a material that's already been heat applied, then you need to make sure when you peel that carrier off, is that material that it was on top of, was that a cold peel? Was that a hot peel? Could that carrier take away the sheen from that other material that was previously laid down? Now, Fashion Film Electric is also a hot peel. So that's what this looks like. Now, on something like this, you're going to have that matte, and you can see that there is a little bit of a sheen. My mic is right there, so I don't want to bump it. And you're just going to have a really fun kind of effect. Now, this is just 2 colors. You could stop here and be done. You don't have to add anything more to this. But if you're like, you know what, I'm going to add just a little bit more of a pop. I'm not going to thread this, but we're going to add 2 little dots of glitter flake. Cut it. Just to add another little element of surprise in this. Now, the way I was explaining this earlier is this could be an M. This could be, instead of floral, you could do a representation for sports. Any kind of like stained glass effect could be really, really cool for your customers, especially on the fan wear spectrum. Now, I just tacked this guy down instead of going for the full time, but you guys know we're on borrowed time. So now, simply by adding the glitter flake, we've got texture in there. We've got gloss from the glitter, from the electric. We've got dimension. We've really hit almost all 4. Light could kind of come and go just because of how that glitter changes. Now, here's the whammy, and I saved it for the last. This is what you could do with multiple colors. Okay, this is a total of 6 different materials, and I have now done this in probably 5 times, and the 5th time it finally came out the way I really wanted it to. So the biggest thing on something like this is I ended up not weeding those cavities of the flower. And the reason being is because when it came time for the 4th, 5th, and 6th layer, everything was getting distorted. So I was cutting apart the leaves, placing them, and it just didn't do what I needed it to. No matter what I did, The materials were kind of adjusting because of the carriers. And finally, we got a beautiful look. The pink is flock. The teal is fashion film electric. And then this guy is actually chroma bling. And I chose chroma bling that did not have a backer on it. So this is going to adjust to whatever substrate it's on, and it is going to shift. And because that is a copper, it took on some copper tones, which actually plays with the bag nicely. So for those of you that do one-offs, they do personalization gifts. This would be awesome for a teacher. This would be awesome for a mom or a diaper bag where they want to do their, initial on it. This is going to take some time, but this is also going to be something that has some thought behind it. So the thought, the time, all of that, the higher perceived value is going to warrant a higher cost. But as you can see, it really just gives a really cool effect when you've combined several different types of materials.
All right, Kelly, last question and then we'll go. Kathy asked if the heated materials come off fairly soon when they are only heated to each other and not to the item. So does it peel at all off of itself?
Oh, as you're layering. Okay, so that's where it's important to understand the products that you're working with, because if the material cannot be layered on top of, then we should not be layering on top of it. And if the material is not recommended to be layered on top of another material, then same thing. The reason why I say that is because flock, fashion film electric, foam can all be layered on top of. Glitter flake and chroma bling cannot be layered, which means we do not want to have any overlap on top of those products, because then the washability isn't going to be there. It may apply with one heat, but as that cools, it could just pop off. So not all materials can be layered on top of, and not all materials are good for just layering at certain parts of the project.
All right, everyone's asking if there's going to be a replay. Yes, you will receive a replay of the session emailed to the email address you registered with 24 hours after this session ends. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.